Ohio State's the standard. Veteran roster, national title expectation. Penn State, new face on the sideline, new face under center, and a 20-point mountain to climb. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 10 of the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome to the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome back into the Straight from the Crest podcast. I'm your host, Michael David Kresovich. On today's show, we'll be previewing the Penn State-Ohio State matchup set for November 1st, this Saturday at noon, the big noon kick game of the week on Fox Sports, the house that Harley built in Columbus, Ohio. You may know it as the Shoe. Justin joins the show today. Justin, this game had a lot of expectations about a little over a month and a half ago. Now, not so much.
Yeah, I think this game in recent memory has always been the biggest game on the schedule. It's been something that Penn State fans have looked forward to as a measuring stick game. It is not the same thing this year. We are obviously fighting for not national title expectations anymore. We're fighting for a respectable season. Still excited to watch the game. You and I are going to be there. I know you've teased at that a couple times in previous episodes, so still excited to go out and support the guys. But it definitely carries different weight than it has in past years. Looking forward to seeing the Shoe, looking forward to seeing the boys play, and, excited to break it down with you.
Penn State gets some help back this week, Jay, as Zariah Fisher and Cooper Cousins are back in the lineup. That's got to give a little bump to this depleted locker room.
Yeah, I think Zariah Fisher coming back is big. Obviously, the pass rush has not been what we expected it to be throughout the course of the season. And Julian Sain's only been sacked 3 times this year. So getting after him is going to be important. As far as Cooper Cousins goes, we've been critical of the offensive line. It's great to have him back. I think he's also an emotional leader on that offensive line, even though he's only a sophomore. So I'm sure that the guys there are excited to have him back.
Yeah. Ohio State leads the series 26-14 all time and 8 wins in a row. Ohio State has defeated Penn State, obviously the last win, 2016 at home. That I don't know if you guys have ever seen that clip. It might be the biggest Penn State clip ever surfaced the internet. But let's get into Ohio State because that's who we want to talk about. A very good football team, 7-0 on the season, with 2 ranked wins, one over Texas, 14-7 to begin the season, and Illinois by 18 on the road. In both of those victories, which we will get into a little later, Julian Sain had his 2 lowest passing games of the season in yards. Against Texas, he threw for 126, and he threw for 166 against the Illini. We say the name Julian Sain. That's their quarterback. The sophomore has tossed 19 interceptions to just 3 picks on the year. And he's also thrown for 1,900 yards and completed 80% of his passes, which ranks number 1 in the nation. It's a 2-headed monster in this Buckeye backfield, with their number 1 being Bo Jackson. No, not that Bo Jackson. His real name's actually Lamar Jackson, believe it or not. He's their bread and butter, a team high 433 yards on 68 carries. Also in their backfield's a name pretty familiar to Penn State, C.J. Donaldson, who Penn State faced twice in the last 2 years, who's a great, strong runner, and he gets a lot of their end zone carries. On the outside, they have a monster in Jeremiah Smith, who's probably the greatest college wide receiver right now, and right behind him, as par for Ohio State, they have more weapons. Carnell Tate is their number 2 option. Carnell Tate has 34 catches for 587 yards and 6 touchdowns. To put that into perspective, Devontae Ross and Trevor Pena have 41 catches, 476 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith's numbers are even more impressive. 49 catches, over 600 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Their tight end, Max Clare, who's 3rd on the team in catches, has 20 on the year. He is a matchup nightmare. Too fast for linebackers, too strong for safeties. Look for him to make a difference. Brian Hartline commands this offense. He's their play caller, and he is a guy that's kind of caught news this week with the Penn State, which we'll get into that in another episode. On the defensive side of the ball, headed by Matt Patricia, Linebacker Arvell Reese leads the team with 42 solo tackles, while safety / linebacker / future Dallas Cowboy Caleb Downs leads with 24 solo tackles. Defensive end, they have a monster in Caden Curry, who has 7 sacks and pairs well with Arvell Reese's 5.5 sacks. This is a defense that has 2 guys in the top 25 in sacks, which obviously Reese and Arvell we just mentioned there. 4 Buckeyes have an interception apiece. They don't really take the ball away. They just don't give up many points. On the special team side of things, they do have a kicker who's super reliable inside of 40 yards, but not so much outside of 40 in Jaden Fielding. So that's the roster breakdown from the Buckeyes perspective. And just, and Ryan Day is their coach. That goes without saying there. Loaded staff, loaded roster. Justin, what has impressed you most about Ohio State this year?
So I think the thing that's most impressive is just their ability to reload talent. You know, we thought this might be a down year because of all of the seniors that were leaving Ohio State last year. You know, last year it was a lot of these guys coming back for 5th years to try and make things right. And then that senior-led group ended up winning the national championship. So it was assumed that there would be a fall off here in 2025, and that's just not what we've seen. We've seen a team that is dominant on both sides of the ball, loaded with talent everywhere. I mean, you threw out a bunch of names that are all great players. CJ Donaldson came from West Virginia. He was great there. He fills in the backfield nicely with Bo Jackson. I can't remember the last time that they did not have a first-round wide receiver on the team. Now, I don't know that they're going to get a first-round wide receiver drafted this year, but Jeremiah Smith's going to be the first wide receiver drafted when he becomes eligible. And like dating back to 2016 before that would have been the last time that they didn't have a first round wide receiver on their team. So their ability to stockpile talent at that position specifically is incredible. They've also been super talented at quarterback, with multiple quarterbacks going on to the NFL, getting drafted highly. They haven't all panned out, but the talent has obviously been there. You know, there's not a glaring weakness. So, you know, when I talk about their ability to replenish talent, it's everywhere. It's the defensive line. It's the backfield. You talked about Caleb Downs probably being the best defensive back / linebacker / whatever you want to call it in college football. He won't be able to save the Dallas Cowboys defense. That is irreparable. But he is great for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So that's what stood out to me about their team. Yeah, it's just really impressive, their ability to stockpile talent, maintain it, keep it in this portal era, and then also bring in new talent from the portal when they have to.
Let's get into the X's and O's of this. Justin, from a defensive perspective, what does Penn State have to do to slow down this high-powered Buckeye attack?
So alluded to it briefly in the intro with Julian Sain only being sacked 3 times this year. That number is going to have to probably double if we're going to have a chance. Like, we have to be able to get to the quarterback. We can't let that 80% completion rate stand. You know, we talked about the completion rate and how he's struggled, not necessarily struggled, but his worst games have been against the 2 ranked opponents that he's played. You know, being able to get after him, speed up his timing, actually get him on the ground, get quarterback hits, that's going to be important. And then you've got to find something to do. That pairs with being able to being able to slow down the wide receiver pair that they have. Because if you let him sit back there for however long he wants, like, Jeremiah Smith's going to get open. Carnell Tate's going to get open. So I'd say that that's probably the key. I don't even want to talk about the run game. Like, yeah, you can't let him run all over you, and we've not been great against the run. But you can't let Sain sit back there and throw to his 2 stud wide receivers freely. Like, you don't want to leave guys in single coverage, but I would prefer to speed up the clock rather than just watch death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I agree. Ohio State's elite at finishing drive, and they have the one play explosivity that we do not have. But one thing that they do lack, Justin, is in terms of EPA, which was expected points added, which is an advanced stat that a lot of teams lead on. Essentially, EPA is every play is graded as how much does this help you win the game. That's it's a win probability broken down into simple terms. State's explosiveness isn't as high on the ground as it's been previous years. This year, they rank 108th in EPA per rush and 134 in explosiveness. So if they can protect against the big play through the air, and Penn State can be gap disciplined defensively and cycle in and play 6-7 defensive line, defensive edges, and really play deep into this roster and force them into third down, I think early down success rate is a big thing Penn State has to watch here. If you can get Ohio State into these third and longs, these third and even manageable third downs, I think that goes without saying, obviously Julian saying, but that's the defensive thing. You have to play over the top. You can't get burnt, of course. You gotta bend, and you can't break there.
Would you prefer to see us play don't bend, don't break, or would you prefer to see us send pressure and try and speed up the clock?
I would say bend, don't break, because we haven't got home all year, and this is a team, Jay, that they did lose 3 offensive linemen last year, and they returned just 3 defensive linemen this year, and so they only bring back 3 starters on their defense, their whole defensive line, which we'll get into next. But to answer your question, I think it's better to be aggressive on the short yardage, like the 3rd and 4s. But I think that's why the 1st and 10 is so crucial, where if you can be aggressive early down, where you don't have to give up that big play on 3rd down, that's Penn State's best chance. Truthfully, I do. And on the other side, on Penn State's side, we've talked about it all week. I wish Garrett was here with us. Garrett's all right. He needed a break here. He'll be back.
Stole
next
my bye week.
Yeah, he did. So you cannot use your bye week. You can take his next year. That's fine with me. But the key on the Penn State side to me, Jay, is sustaining long drives, keeping this offense on the field. And by doing that, you're going to obviously increase your chance of winning the game. You can't turn over the ball. That's another big thing. You have to be mindful of field position, which I do give Penn State the edges on the special teams analysis. But from a game planning perspective, Penn State needs to run a lot of plays that make Ethan Grunkmeyer's life easier. They need to have design rollouts. They need quick flat hits. They need RPOs that really get the ball out quick. You can't have a you can't have a horizontal attack here on 3rd and long and expect to do anything against a very talented defense. And that's where I'm at on the offensive side of the ball. Also, it would be great if our wide receivers decided to show up and really, really make Grunk's life easier. Where are you at on the offensive side? Keys to the game for this Penn State team.
The keys to the game, it's going to be the run game. Like, Katron Allen is our best offensive player. He's going to have to play out of his mind. The offensive line, you talked about Cooper Cousins coming back, is going to have to play out of their mind. And we're going to have to be able to, as you said, stay on schedule, because we can try to move stuff horizontally on 1st, 2nd down to try and get yardage here. But if we get off schedule, I don't see this offense having the capability to bounce back from a 2nd and 14. So the key, you mentioned it, stay on schedule. The run game has to be there. We have to be able to move the ball on the ground. And then you can't ask too much of Gronk. I don't want to be overly critical, but he's not going to win you the game. Now, maybe he is good enough to play, not to lose the game. You can't put the game on like miracle throws from him if you expect to win. They have to stay on schedule. Kotelnicki's going to have to find a way to move the ball efficiently down the field without taking big risks and losing chunks of yardage on whatever we've called Mickey Mouse stuff, right? Move the ball efficiently, stay on schedule, don't put Gronk in bad situations, and trust him not to lose you the game rather than asking him to win you the game.
Yeah, and another thing, we talked about the early down success rate on defense. And when we say run the ball, establish that, it doesn't mean pound the rock 14 times up the A gap. It means use misdirection, get outside, start using plays that are going to help out you on 3rd down, even on 4th down, so you can get into those manageable down and distance situations. Rather than trying to run head on, use misdirections, incorporate some screen passes, slow these edge rushers and linebackers down so they have to think. There is a way you can beat this team. Michigan beat them last year, and I don't think from a roster breakdown that this Penn State team is that much worse than Michigan was last year. And Michigan dominated them. They held the time of the possession. They won the turnover battle. That's what we point to every week on this show. If Penn State wants any any chance in this 20-point matchup, you have to take care of the ball, you have to win the possession battle, and you have to make more plays when it counts. We haven't seen that yet, but that's what Penn State ultimately has to do. With that being said, this is probably one of the largest spreads Penn State has faced since 2013. I was almost said the James Franklin era. Coach T pointed to that in his speech. Going back the last 5 years, in 2020, they were a 10-point dog. 2021, 19 points. In 2021, 2022, they were 15. The last couple of years was 4-3. So this is a large spread. So the last 20 times, to give Penn State fans some hope, the last 20 times Penn State was a dog, I'm sorry, I apologize there. The last 6 to 7 games, as Ohio State has been a favorite, the under's gone under 6 or 7 times, and Ohio State is covered as a home favorite against unranked Big Ten teams 8 out of 18 times. So there's the numbers. I think the total's 43 here, Justin. A massive deficit from our friends in the desert. Clearly don't think Penn State has a chance, and I'm with them. That's probably where I would set the line.
Yeah, and I just, for grins, I looked back to see what the line was in 2016, and we were obviously home in the whiteout, but we were 18-point dogs then, and we did find a way to win. So, we've also lost two. Let's remind the fans. I'm sure they don't need it. We've lost 2 games as 20-point favorites this year, right? These games happen. We saw it firsthand that a 20-point favorite can lose. So don't go into it with no sense of hope. It's obviously a big mountain to climb, but there's always a chance.
Yeah, the worst loss was 2013. Penn State fell by 49. So that was in the shoe.
Yeah, I remember Allen Robinson had a sick screen pass that he caught and then traversed the field twice and scored on it. But we still, like you said, lost by 49.
That's okay. They're both equally as memorable. So I'm going to go to you here. Give me your winner. Who covers and why they're going to win or cover.
So I'm a man of my word, and I said in the last show that I would pick Penn State anyways. See, like you said, I watched Michigan beat this team without a quarterback last year, right? With Davis Warren, he couldn't have had 100 yards passing. So it can be done, and they beat him in the shoe at noon. I don't know if they were 20-point underdogs. I bet they were.
It was close. It was 14-15.
So, yeah, give me Penn State to win. That obviously means they cover. Are we doing scores right now too, or are we?
Yeah, give me your score and your first touchdown score.
All right, score. I don't know what score could Penn State possibly win at. Give me 24-21, just like 2016.
And your first touchdown?
Yeah, Katron.
Katron. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm picking Ohio State, but I'm picking Penn State to cover. To me, I think we're going to see some fight out of Penn State, but at the end of the day, it's just too much of a hill to climb. This is an elite team that probably will be playing for a national title in the January, but it's too much for me, and I see a 28-16 Ohio State win. I think it's closer than a lot of people think, but I think a turnover will doom us late, and I think they'll kind of pull away. I don't think Penn State will hold Ohio State to many field goals, so I see 4 touchdowns from Ohio State, maybe 2 from Penn State, but I think it will be close until about midway through the fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter. As far as first touchdowns, give me a Ethan Grunkmeyer rushing touchdown to get Penn State up 7-0. But so that was our show. That was part 1. We're going to do part 2 Saturday morning live outside of the Horseshoe, which we'll have a couple guests be on the show there. So there'll be a video up that we're going to try to get out before kick. And we're going to get it out before kick. It may be at 11, it may be at 10, it might be at 9. That we have to kind of iron out the logistics of that, but there will be a game video there at the shoe. We're going to try to get some. We have some Ohio State fans coming on to get their perspective. But thank you all for listening. This has been a great season, and obviously the tone of the show has changed, but we're still going to do what we have to do. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll do our national show where we cover the entire college football slate once the first college football bracket comes out and the rankings come out. But Jay, I appreciate you picking Penn State here. You sticking with that?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. So you mentioned you only see us scoring 2 touchdowns. That's fine, but you forget that we block kicks every week now. So the offense only has to score 2 touchdowns.
That's fine.
We're going to get one. We're going to get one from the special teams.
That guy
block
Chris sent me his model, and I ran it. That number can be any points. It doesn't have to be offensive.
Well, I interpret it as you think the offense can muster 2 touchdowns, which I agree with. I think asking them for 3 is not reasonable. It would be irresponsible to expect this offense to score 3 touchdowns. But 2 plus a special teams touchdown, we can get that done.